Hey, it's America's Supermom. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. This series is the Corona Chronicles. I created this so that we would have an outlet of positivity in the midst of a lot of negativity. You know what I'm talking about. All the news, the fear around this virus, how it can affect us, what the new normal is looking like, and how so many things have changed that a lot of people feel like um, it is the end of the world, so to speak. So, this podcast was created so that those of us who have hope, who are willing to move forward with this new normal and innovate new things that will help us to be creative and positive. That is what this platform is for us to come together and share that positivity and that light with those who may need it. So if you're interested in sharing your insight, please reach out because we can never have enough positive news. So sit back and enjoy the show.
To thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited about my next guest, Whitnie Wiley. We actually met. We were introduced through another party, which I don't even have my notes in front of me to figure out who that was. But we have talked on a Zoom call and just had a great conversation. I feel like I have known her forever. I'm excited to hear that she is an author. She has practiced law and just so many accolades. I can't even list them all, but just really excited. Just a very like minded person that I'm glad to have crossed paths with. And at this time, I'm going to give Whitnie the opportunity to introduce herself before we get into our topic and interview.
Well, thank you, Lachelle. I am so honored to have the opportunity to be on your show with you. I think you are fabulous. I listened to your shows before we had a chance to actually meet once we'd been introduced. And I think who you are and what you're doing is fabulous. And I am looking forward to growing in relationship with you.
Well, thank you so much. Look, my head is going to be too big for my headset.
I don't think our friend JC will let that happen.
You are right. You
The
are
Holy
right.
Spirit has a way of just, putting us right back in our place. So
Isn't that the truth? You are so right about that.
I
Yes.
am not worried about you.
So true. Yes.
So a little bit about me. I am a wife, mother, and through my husband, I am now a grandmother of 5, and we live in Sacramento, California. So I am here doing what I consider my life's work, which is to help organizations create workplaces that their employees love to work in. And I am just really excited about the opportunity to help leaders be better leaders so that they are leading those that they are responsible for in a way that has their employees excited and energized and engaged in the work that they're doing. So in a lot of respects, they're servant leaders, but it really just boils down to being really in touch with who they are and being intentional about how they move forward in their leadership abilities. And so that's what I'm focused on work-wise. Personally, outside of marriage and being a grandmother, I am a golfer. I am a wine enthusiast and just really enjoying life. I'm at a stage in my life where I get to decide what I want to do, when I want to do it, and I'm just for the opportunities that I have in front of me, the people that the Lord is introducing in my life, people like you and Sajal, introduced
Mhm.
us, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
um, and just enjoying the opportunities to be of service and to make a difference in this world.
I love that. And I definitely can resonate with that. And just so, yeah, Sejal is an awesome person. I want to give her a shout out. She's a great connector. She has just been connecting me with a lot of people. But, you mentioned the whole thing of working with these organizations for them to find ways to connect deeper with their staff.
Yes.
So this is really kind of like, even though this is something that a lot of people aspire to do, but to take the time to invest in doing this is something different.
Right.
It's like really implementing and taking action on what it is. Instead of being a talker, it's about talking and implementing.
Yes.
So, you have to be a different type of person to do that kind of stuff. So, one, you are able to do this because you actually do it yourself. I believe in attracting what you're about. So,
Absolutely.
how do you kind of keep yourself in a space of doing that? Because you are now passionate about what you're doing. You have been in law. So, talk to us a little bit about how you got to this space of implementing the things that you're desiring.
It's interesting. I started on, I would say, a personal development journey
Mhm.
around the time I was maybe 30 or so. And
Mhm.
I had met a couple people who were doing motivational speaking. And I was like, ooh, I would love to do that. And then I found myself in this kind of quandary where I felt like I didn't have a story to tell. I hadn't really lived life. And I would say that I was self-aware enough at 28, 29 to realize
Mhm.
that I hadn't really gone through a whole lot.
Mhm.
And I had, in all reality, I had gone through a divorce, but I felt like a lot of people go through a divorce, right? It's not
Mhm.
that, and it wasn't the end of the world. And while I may have thought that in the moment, what
Mhm.
I realized coming out of it was that I had been in a relationship and in a marriage that I probably never should have been in the first place. And that what was happening was ultimately for my benefit. And that's a hard
Mm.
place to be, and it's a hard thing to accept, particularly the first time you go through something, right? And the more you
Mhm.
go through things, the more you are actually able to say, you know what? What's happening is happening for my benefit, right? God's working
Right.
all things out, and all things mean all things, even when your heart is broken and crushed.
Right.
When you are, feeling like you just can't go on. All things means all things. And so,
Mhm.
as I was on my journey in the early days, trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, I was participating in, I would say, activities. I was volunteering, I was speaking at organizations, talking to youth, but I was doing it as a volunteer. And because I didn't really feel like I had arrived at a place where I could stand in my power and
Mm.
deliver a message about goal setting and being all that you're capable of being. But I was doing that nonetheless. And as I was kind of navigating that, the reality of having to keep a roof over my head as a single parent,
Mhm.
feeding my son, that was overwhelming the things that I wanted to do. And so I was working, and I worked for a while as an engineering technician. I had wanted to be an engineer, and I waited tables. I worked as a receptionist in this really small museum in Oakland, California. And so I was doing these bit jobs, just doing what I needed to do to keep a roof over our head. And at some point, it dawned on me that I needed to go back to school. So, half a step back, I had gone to UC Berkeley. I was studying applied mathematics, and I failed out. They kicked me out. I was not the best mathematics student, which was a shock to me because I love math. And it was the one subject that I had enjoyed my entire life. And then I ran up against math at Berkeley, which was a whole other animal. It was a whole other animal. And so then I was a little crushed. And so these little bits and pieces of things that on their own didn't seem like a big deal started to become part of my story. And I started then to see it is the bits and pieces. It's not like one huge thing that happens to you that tells you that you can overcome odds. It is all the little things, piece by piece, that give you the confidence and the trust that you can persevere and that you can move on. And so, I just continued doing what I was doing. And eventually I got to a place where I was struggling, not so much with work, because I'd gone back to school. I'd gotten a law degree. I was working as a lawyer and a lobbyist. And initially I enjoyed the work. And I'm in California. So I don't know. I imagine you have listeners all over the place, so they probably don't understand California politics, but California is very left-leaning in its politics. And my employer at the time was not a left-leaning employer. And so the work that I was doing, particularly as a lobbyist, was very much kind of against California politics. And I found myself struggling constantly to convince legislators of the right thing to do, because we were on kind of opposite sides of the political spectrum. And that started to grate on me. And I started not to enjoy my job. And I stopped one day to think about what it is I wanted to do. What had I done in my life where I just felt like on fire, where I was just lit up? And it had always been helping other people figure out what they wanted to do, and then helping them put together their goals and the plans, and then take action towards it. And so in the midst of, while I was working as a lawyer and a lobbyist, I started doing that. I was doing it on the side. And then I went back to school again and got a master's degree in organizational development and leadership. And it was then that I was like, I could put all this together with helping organizations turn around their leadership, turn around the fact that we have 70, 80%, depending on the studies that you look at, 70, 80% of workers who are unhappy in the work that they're doing. They're disengaged at work. And I just don't believe that that's necessary. That it doesn't have to be that way. And with some tweaks, and I'm not talking major things. I'm not talking about bringing in foosball, machines and, serving lunch every day. And some of the things that organizations do, particularly tech companies, these things that they do to try to get their employees to stay. I'm talking
Right.
about just some very basic human fundamental decency behaviors that will make a difference. If employees leave their jobs, not because of the jobs, but ultimately because of their bosses, then we have some work to do about the bosses.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was in studying organizational development and leadership, and at the same time working for an organization that I felt had really poor leadership. Just it gelled. Everything just kind of came together and cemented for me. And it was then I made the decision that I was going to move in a direction as a coach and a consultant. But the really interesting thing, Michelle, is that God had other plans for me. And he
Yes.
said, yeah, you're on the right track, but not now. And
Mm.
so I ended up staying in that organization much longer than I would have stayed on my own.
Mhm. Mhm.
But in the midst of while I was trying to get out of there and it wasn't happening, a light bulb went off, and it was just that. You are where you are for a reason. There's
Mhm.
there are lessons to be learned here, and you running out of here will keep you from getting your lessons now. Right? I probably could have left and gone to
Mm.
another company, a law firm or whatever, and I would have set back my learning because I would have had to start all over again in a new place
Right.
learning that. So I was planted. What is this saying? You're not buried, you're planted, right? When you
Right.
feel like you're buried, you're planted. And so, and
Mhm.
with the opportunity to bloom and to
Mhm.
thrive and to take the lessons that I learned there with my education, other observations, conversations with other people who are doing work in leadership and organizational development and employee development, and say, there is a solution. And I can be that person or one of those people who brings that solution forth because I've been there. I've been there with
Mhm.
bad leadership. I've been in a job that I hated with a passion, and
Mhm.
that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way
Mhm.
through. So,
Mhm. That is awesome. And I mean, I definitely have been on the other side, not knowing what the heck was going on, and to be in a place to where I feel that I have peace and clarity and all that. What is a simple tip that you could share? Because I like the way you mentioned that it's not always the foosball tables
right.
or certain things that you put into the workplace, but what are some ways that they can begin to create that ideal working environment for some of these organizations and their staff?
So, I think it starts with leadership. Leadership is about relationships. And
Mhm.
leadership is not about power. It's not about power and authority and wielding it. It is about relationships. And
Mhm.
relationships require people to relate, right? That's
Mm.
the very definition of it. And it requires communication and the building of trust. And so, in order to lead well, you have to be able to relate to other people. But the place to start is inside, it's with self. It's understanding who
Mhm.
you are, what you're about, and ask a question. Why are you in leadership?
Mhm.
Is it because someone gave you a title and a position? Was this something that you sought yourself? Why did you seek it?
Mhm.
Did you seek it
Mhm.
for ego reasons? Did you seek it for financial reasons? Or did you seek it because you really wanted to help other people to grow and become the best they want to be? And when a leader comes from a place of serving others, a place of uplifting and empowering them, teaching them, mentoring, coaching, that's the kind of person that creates an environment where their employees want to be in. So I'll give you an example. At the last employer that I worked for, I had five direct bosses. The first four of those were in one particular position, and then the fifth was in my role as legal counsel to that organization. My relationship with my boss as legal counsel was full of tension from the very beginning. And it's so much so that we had a conversation, and he told me that he's like, I don't understand why you and I can't have a better relationship. Why can't we have a good relationship? And I'm not going to get into the details here because he's not here to defend himself. But the bottom line I felt was that we couldn't get to a relationship that was more than surface. And if we couldn't go beyond a surface relationship, then we were never going to get to a place where we really felt like we could trust each other and do for the organization what in our two positions we really were capable of doing. And then in the other half of my job, because I was both lawyer and lobbyist in this organization, in the other position, I had four bosses. Two I'm not going to talk about because they're really not relevant to the story. But the last two I had in that organization, one, I also had a very challenging relationship because I felt she was, my boss was a micromanager, and that was not that's not the kind of personality that I thrive under. I had been at the organization for 10 years at the time at which she came. I felt like I knew my job. I did my job. I had gotten great reviews. And then to have someone come in who felt like they needed to, watch everything I did, to rewrite letters and redo my work really didn't sit well with me. Fortunately, she got a promotion. Fortunately, it's a unfortunately thing. But fortunately, she got a promotion and I got a different boss who was the kind of boss that I think if more people were like her, we would solve lots of organizational problems. So she was very intentional about the kind of boss she wanted to be. She was hands-on, but not a micromanager. She provided tools and resources to her staff, made herself available. When someone says they have an open door policy, she was the epitome of open door policy. You could actually go in and have a conversation with her. And so my relationship with her was personal. It was professional. She was intentional, purposeful. She understood her role. Her job was to bring out the best in her staff. And everything she did was in pursuit of that, alongside with having to manage her own workload. And it is that approach to managing and leading staff that makes a difference for the staff. And this isn't just like my interpretation. She was the only manager at that company who had ever been voted Employee of the Year as a manager. And She was employee of the year there twice. No one else had been employee of the year, once as a non-manager and once as a manager. So I think that speaks volumes about the kind of person she is, the kind of leader she chose to be. And Michelle, I think the bottom line is it has to be intentional. It has to be purposeful. It can't just be, I got this promotion to this position and now I'm just going to kind of fly by the seat of my pants and hope everything works out well. So it starts with understanding self and understanding your role and your purpose. And until you can get there, you really can't. I mean, you could do some activities, you could take some actions that may keep people from leaving, but that's not going to engender the kind of loyalty and relationship that has people wanting to be there and love their work. And that's what I'm about, creating that environment, creating the relationships that make people want to stay. In addition to things like, paying people appropriately for the work that they're doing, respecting them, thanking them. There are other things that need to be done. And but it starts with yourself. It starts with you asking the questions. Who am I? What am I about? What is my purpose? What is my role in leadership? And how can I help the people that I'm leading become the best that they can be?
And I think, the element that, it sounds like she was really able to do was to empower her staff, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people kind of have this struggle of trying to maintain a balance with, because it's like, you're the manager, but when you empower your people, it's like, you are giving them some form of ability to make decisions without you always being there.
Yes, I think one of the struggles is that there's a sense that if you do that you lose power. And so again, it goes back to, if your definition of leadership is not about power, then you don't have to worry about losing something, because there's nothing to lose. You can't lose by giving, sharing, serving, lifting people up, empowering them. If your definition of leadership is about being in charge and being in power, and the way to get your staff to actually not have to be told what to do and micromanaged and the like, then you would feel like you were losing power, because you would have to give something. You'd have to give up a little piece of power to delegate, to trust, rather than to hold on to your power by treating people in a way in which you reinforce the need to use your power, to get them to do things.
So true. And so I think this is really, what a lot of people struggle with, because I know even in my own just household, with me being the matriarch of, a number of children, I felt like my worth was attached to the roles that I play. So it's like, if I have this role and that role, of course I don't want to give these things up, because that makes me feel more powerful. And I have learned over time that, it's so much better to have a team working with you rather than you have to be the boss of everything. So for people, this is a very, they want the benefits of it, but it's a hard thing to adjust to. So what advice would you give these organizations, or, people as individuals just with their own personal development, of the benefits of empowering others as opposed to always feeling
Right.
like you have to get all
Right.
the
I
credit
think
or you're in
it starts
control.
with vision. What is your vision? And not just your vision as a leader, your
Mhm.
vision for your life. What is your vision for your life? What is it that you want? What do you want it
Mm.
to look like, feel like, smell like, taste like? And then how does your work fit into that, right? How does your work become a part of that rather than
Mhm.
sort of the sole source or your identity? And I think your analogy is such a good one,
Mm.
a clear one, because you could have stayed in your role as mother and matriarch and been, with the iron fist and you do as I say, and this is the way we're going to do it. Or you can look and say, you know what? I want a life as a matriarch that is not fraught with
Right.
tension and angst all the time. And when you look at it from a
Mhm.
different perspective, instead of
Mhm.
saying, you're going to do what I want because I'm the mom and I said so, you can look and say, do I want things to just get done because I said so? Or do I want to create an environment where my children, my family are part of a team and we're doing the things that need to get done because everyone understands their role and their part in this, and then willingly do that so that you can
Mhm.
take a deep breath every now and then and not have to be constantly on edge
Mhm.
and at odds with your children. It's not really that much different in an organization. You can be the
Mhm.
iron fist, or you
Mhm.
can lead a team where everyone has a job. Everyone has a role. They understand their role. That requires
Mhm.
work and communication in a way that just ordering people around doesn't. And I am not going to suggest at all that it's easy. It's not
Mhm.
easy. It is not easy. But
Right.
the end
Right.
result allows you to enjoy the process and enjoy your life in a way that the power struggle doesn't. Because with your power struggle, you're constantly replacing
Mhm.
employees who are leaving, right? And so that creates its own set
Mm.
of issues.
Mhm.
Work isn't getting done, or you
Mhm.
are constantly putting people on performance plans because they're not engaged, they're not doing their work, they're not productive. And so you then take that home. So then your
Mhm.
life, which is where I started, right? The vision for your life. I'm sure no one's vision for their life is after they leave work is to go home and spend all their time stressing about what happened at the office. I don't know anyone whose goal is that, right? No,
Right.
no one is sitting around saying, I
Right.
wish
So true.
that I could take this home and, talk down and bad to my
Mhm.
husband or wife and children and kick the dog. And no one is asking for that. So if you look at the way you
Mhm.
approach your work in the context of what you want for your life, then you can start to make some decisions that allow you to take a different approach. Now, whether or not it's the approach I suggest is a whole
Mm.
other thing, but at least you could look at taking a different approach and try something different. A lot of what happens in leadership and management is
Mhm.
people do either what they've seen modeled for them, or they do what they think is the right thing to
Mhm.
do based on how they've behaved up until that point. So if I've been the kind of person who, is, let's just say, a little mean and obnoxious um, on my way up, I think that's why I'm being rewarded for that. So I'm going to reinforce that behavior. And so,
Mm.
but we all
Mhm.
have a choice. We
Mhm.
all have a choice on whether to do it one way or the other. And I would say make the investment of time and energy on the front end, and then allow that consider it an investment that pays dividends on the other end, with reduced employee turnover, reduced discipline problems, reduced angst and productivity issues and things like that. And you can trust your staff. And so you can go on vacation, right? A lot of times people will feel like, well, I can't go on vacation because, whether they say the words out loud or not, they don't trust their staff to do what they're supposed to do when they're not around.
Exactly.
But you've groomed them for that with the way you have behaved. So if you will trust them, empower them, lift them up while you were there, then you can trust them when you're not there. But if you feel like you have to be there watching their every move to get their work done, then you're not going to feel like you could ever trust them when you're not there. And so, again, ask that question. How does that fit into your life? I want a life. I don't have employees at the moment, but when I had employees and when I had direct reports, I wanted to be able to go on vacation and not worry about things. Right? I did not want a life when I was in corporate where I couldn't take a vacation. And a lot of people don't, because they feel like if I go, things will fall apart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been conditioned to believe that. That's really true. That's some good stuff. Now, so I can't believe we're out of time, but I wanted to ask you one thing before we go about your new book that you're working on.
Sure.
So about the book
I actually have 3
and
published
then the
books. The
one
most
that
recent
you
one
are
is
working
called
on
One
right now.
Habit for a Thriving Home Office. It is part of a series of One Habit books that talk about a number of different things.
Okay.
The One Habit for a Thriving Home Office is pretty much what it sounds like. It's about habits that you can use to help you work from home better, to thrive in your work. And we all know that many of us were thrust into, we went to work one day in the office, and the next day, all of a sudden, we were working at home, and you've got your family and the kids that you're homeschooling and all these things going on. What are some habits that you can use that will help you better navigate a work at home situation, whether you work for someone else or you are self-employed? And then the book that I'm working on, and I'm looking at the beginning of next year for its release, is called The Simple Leader. And it is pretty much the way it sounds. It's about leadership and helping leaders be the best they can be. And what I say is to be the kind of leader even they would follow. And it delves into these topics of self-awareness and purposefulness and intentionality and being a master of relationships, of yourself, leveraging the strengths of your team and using your energy and the energy of your team to get more done as a team than any one of the parts, and certainly more than you as the leader by yourself can do.
That's awesome. That definitely is a good book. I encourage everybody to get that because, this is just the key to success is, what I have learned through my own journey is collaboration, and we always have these visions and aspirations, but, you can't do it if you're on an island and you are the island. It takes collaboration.
So the audience can get
awesome.
a hold of me through LinkedIn. Is probably the best way. I do have a website. It's whitniewiley.com. But LinkedIn is certainly an easy to know about me is there. And I am pretty good at responding quickly. So So they are on the website.
Awesome. Now,
They're
so are
all
your other
available
books on your
on
website
Amazon as
also?
well. So you can get them. One Habit for Success is one book, One Habit for a Thriving Home Office. And then the third book is called Tag Talks. They're all there. You can find them on my author page. So if you search for Whitnie Wiley on Amazon, all the 3 books will come up. And The Simple Leader, when it comes out early next year, will be there as well. I would just say
Awesome. And then what
create
final
for
words
yourself
would
a
you like to
vision.
share with the audience
It
today?
is truly the starting place for everything you want to do. Have a vision for your life, have a vision for your work and how they integrate, how they work together. And then be very in touch with your values and your priorities, because those are the things that will drive your behaviors in movement life. And if you can get those connected and in alignment, happiness is sure to follow.
That's good. That's a mouthful right there, because that definitely it can take us a lifetime to get that lesson, but that is so good if those of us who are cognizant of taking notes and listening to that golden nugget, you can definitely begin to change your life just from this actual interview today. So I just want to thank you, Whitnie, for your
As
insight,
am
and
I. It has been an absolute
looking forward to
pleasure
more
getting to know
collaboration,
you. I thank you
definitely in
for
the
the
future.
opportunity to be here today in service of you and your community. And please let me know if there's anything I can do to be of service in the future. I will. You do the same. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
I
Well, you have a
will. Thank you
wonderful
very
afternoon,
much.
okay?
All right. Bye.
And enjoy your.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I really enjoy providing content that inspires and challenges us to be a better version of ourselves. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, please email me at info@LachelleAdkins.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. If there was something in this episode that resonated with you, it probably will resonate with someone else. So please share it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But those aha moments, those moments of really getting something and changing your perspective are very, very pivotal in having people change the trajectory of their lives. And so being able to share insightful information so that other people can grow is the easiest thing that we can do as we pay it forward. So again, I want to thank you all for listening. And if you have time, write out a review. Go to iTunes, Anchor, wherever you can find this podcast on any of those platforms, and write a review about what impact this episode had on you, what you learned, or whatever. Any feedback is great because it just helps me to understand what content is really beneficial for those that are listening. So again, I want to thank you all for your support and taking the time to spend some time with me and my guests. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.